Have you ever felt that the more you share with your family, the more complicated everything becomes as you grow older? Have you noticed how, once you hit your 70s, it can seem like your life is no longer truly your own? Suddenly, everyone has opinions about your finances, your health, and even your emotions. What if the secret to peace and happiness at this stage of life isn't about sharing everything, but about knowing exactly what to keep to yourself? Here's the truth. Growing older doesn't mean you have to surrender your privacy. In fact, learning to protect certain parts of your life can be one of the wisest, healthiest decisions you'll ever make. Not because you're hiding anything, but because you're protecting something sacred: your sense of freedom, your peace of mind, and your dignity. After everything you've been through, you already know this simple fact. Not every form of love comes with wisdom, and not every question deserves an answer. Sometimes, choosing silence isn't about being distant or secretive. It's about preserving your dignity and your right to hold certain things close to your heart. Yet no one seems to talk about this. Most advice aimed at older adults focuses on being completely open, encouraging full transparency, sharing everything for the sake of family harmony, or letting others take control under the label of help. But here's something you rarely hear. There are some things you absolutely shouldn't share. There are certain personal secrets that, when kept quietly to yourself, can protect your freedom, strengthen your peace of mind, and even preserve your most important relationships. In this video, we're going to explore 7 powerful secrets that many wise seniors over 70 intentionally keep to themselves. These aren't about deception or hiding from loved ones. They're about self-respect, about understanding the delicate balance between connection and control, and about holding on to the life that still belongs to you, despite how much your children or grandchildren may care. If you're over 70, or even approaching it, and you sometimes find yourself wondering whether it's okay to keep certain things private, this video is for you. You're not selfish. You're not being difficult. You're simply wise enough to know that some things are meant to be yours, and yours alone, to carry. Let's begin with the first secret: health fears. You don't have to tell your family every little detail about what's happening with your body. It's not about hiding something serious. It's about recognizing that constant updates about aches, test results, or blood pressure numbers can sometimes do more harm than good, even if your intentions are innocent. It's easy to forget this, but once you reach a certain age, even the simplest health comment can feel like an emergency to your loved ones. You casually mention a bit of dizziness, and suddenly your daughter is insisting that you move in with her. You mention that your knees ache when the weather changes, and before you know it, your grandson is online searching for nursing homes. To you, it was just casual conversation, but to them, it's a flashing red warning light. They hear panic, even when you feel calm. And that panic quickly turns into pressure, decisions, or even pity that you never asked for. There's a quiet strength in choosing to monitor your health on your own terms. Yes, you should absolutely share serious issues when help is needed. But there's also wisdom in keeping smaller concerns to yourself, at least while you observe, gather information, and decide your next steps privately. Here's an important psychological truth. When older adults constantly talk about their health, especially minor issues, it can shift the entire family dynamic. Suddenly, you're no longer seen as independent. Instead, you're treated like someone who needs to be managed. Your children may start stepping in as decision makers, and once that shift happens, it's very hard to reverse. Sometimes, the wisest move is to hold your ground quietly. Let your family continue to see your steadiness, your calm, and your ability to handle things with care. You've spent a lifetime taking care of others. That knowledge doesn't just vanish because of a number on a birthday cake. Take Margaret, for example. She's 78, lives independently, and recently noticed mild vision issues at night. Instead of calling her children in a panic, she kept a personal journal, tracked her symptoms, adjusted her home lighting in the evenings, and booked a private appointment with her doctor. The issue turned out to be minor and easily manageable. But had she raised the alarm too soon, her son would have been at her door instantly, armed with pamphlets, plans, and that familiar look of worry. Margaret didn't lie or hide anything. She simply delayed the conversation until she had clarity and confidence in her next steps. That allowed her to hold on to her power instead of being swept away by panic. You have that same right to move at your own pace, to quietly assess what's happening, and to say, "I'm looking into it," without feeling obligated to explain every detail before you're ready. Sometimes the wisest thing you can say about your health is nothing at all. Now let's move on to another deeply personal topic: financial choices. Not every dollar in your bank account needs to be discussed with your family. In fact, after you pass 70, your money often becomes more than just numbers on paper. It turns into a symbol for your children, a symbol of future inheritance, of responsibility, or even quiet entitlement. And that's exactly why some of the most peaceful and empowering decisions you'll make are the ones you make quietly, without discussion, without permission, and without debate. Maybe you've been thinking about buying yourself a better chair to ease your back pain, or sending a small, heartfelt gift to an old friend who stood by you during difficult times. Or perhaps you're considering making a donation to a cause that has touched your heart, something that your family may not fully understand or value in the same way. But the moment money enters the conversation, the questions start rolling in. Are you sure that's a good idea? Shouldn't you be saving that for emergencies? What if you live longer than expected and need it later? Of course, these questions usually come from a place of love and concern, but more often than not, they eventually lead to something else: control. There's a kind of freedom that becomes even more essential as you age, and that includes your financial autonomy. You've spent your life earning, budgeting, sacrificing, and making tough decisions. You didn't suddenly forget how to manage your money just because you turned 75. And there's another important layer here, one that many people overlook. In many families, once an elder opens up about their accounts, their will, or future plans, it silently shifts the entire relationship dynamic. Suddenly, whether they say it aloud or not, your children may start thinking in terms of, "What's coming to me?" They may not even realize it, but their focus slowly shifts. From there, every financial decision you make, no matter how small, starts to feel, to them, like you're taking something away from their future. That's a dangerous mindset. It turns your hard-earned money into their emotional burden, and it can transform your acts of generosity into a source of tension or even resentment. Let me share a story about Leonard, an 82-year-old man with 3 grown children, all financially stable in their own right. Leonard had quietly been giving monthly donations to a local women's shelter, something deeply personal to him. He never mentioned it. He simply gave from his heart. But once his children found out, it spiraled into a heated family discussion. They questioned him relentlessly. "Why are you wasting your savings?" "Eh?" they asked. What they didn't understand was that this wasn't just about money for Leonard. He had grown up watching his mother endure silent suffering, trapped in a life without resources, without help, and without options. Supporting that shelter wasn't simply charity for him. It was about honoring her memory, healing old wounds, and standing up for something he believed in deeply. Leonard didn't argue. He didn't defend or explain. He simply smiled, listened, and continued giving, quietly and on his own terms. Leonard continued making his donations privately, quietly, because he knew his conscience didn't need anyone's approval, and neither does yours. We live in a time when older adults are often treated as though they need permission to live freely, as if every decision needs to be discussed, analyzed, and approved by others. But here's the truth. What you choose to spend, give, or keep is still your decision. That freedom is yours to protect, and it's worth guarding fiercely. No matter what others think, this is still your life. You've earned the right to steer it, quietly, wisely, and without needing to justify yourself to anyone. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please leave a comment with the number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Click that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content that informs and inspires. Now, let's move on to another essential topic: emotional boundaries. Sometimes, the kindest and most loving thing you can do for your family is to keep certain feelings to yourself. After the age of 70, emotions tend to deepen. Regrets may resurface more often. Memories grow stronger and more vivid. And loneliness, though often quiet, can feel heavier than ever. But not every emotion needs to be unpacked at the family dinner table. Not every wound needs to be explained in detail. Sometimes, when you try to share too much, it can backfire. You open your heart, expecting understanding, but instead, you receive solutions or advice. You long for empathy, but end up facing confusion or discomfort instead, and that can make you feel even more isolated. Many older adults quietly carry deep grief, whether it's the loss of lifelong friends, the pain of feeling forgotten, or the ache of watching the world move on without them. But when they try to express these feelings, their children often respond with phrases like, "Just stay positive," or "You're worrying too much." Their intentions may be good, but they don't always know how to help, or even how to listen. That's where emotional boundaries become so important. Setting these boundaries isn't about shutting yourself off or bottling up your feelings. It's about knowing what to share, when to share it, and with whom. It's about protecting your emotional energy and carefully choosing the safest, most understanding places to process what you're feeling. Maybe that means writing in a journal, pouring your heart out onto the page where no one else has to weigh in. Maybe it means confiding in a close friend, someone who truly gets it and knows how to listen without judgment. Or maybe it simply means sitting with your own heart in quiet reflection, learning to accept the things no one else can fix. Emotional independence is just as vital as financial independence, because when you lean too heavily on family to understand every twist and turn of your heart, you risk opening yourself up to even more hurt. They may never mean to, but their words can still cause deep hurt. Take Margaret, for example. She was 76, and every evening she missed her late husband deeply, during quiet dinners, on her solitary walks, and especially when she returned to an empty home. One day, in a moment of vulnerability, she told her daughter, "I wish I could hear his voice again." Her daughter, startled and unsure how to respond, quickly said, "Don't talk like that. You're still here, and you have so much life left to live." Of course, her daughter meant well. She was trying to lift her mother's spirits, but her words had an unintended effect. They shut Margaret down completely. She never mentioned her longing again. Instead, Margaret found her own way to process her grief. Every morning, she sat down and wrote letters to her late husband. Letters he would never read, but that she needed to write. For her, the act of writing was enough. It wasn't about anyone else's response. It was about her own release, her own healing. As we get older, we begin to understand something very important. There's a difference between being heard and being healed. And more often than not, true healing doesn't require someone else's ears. It only needs your own truth, gently held in a safe, private space where it can exist without judgment. That's why it's perfectly okay to keep certain emotional truths to yourself. Not because you're ashamed of them, but because they're sacred. Some feelings are meant to be protected, not explained. You deserve to have a space where your emotions can simply breathe, without being fixed, dismissed, or misunderstood. Now let's turn to something that makes many people uneasy: end-of-life preferences. It's no secret that talking about the end of life can make others uncomfortable. Many people avoid the topic altogether. But thinking about it privately, just between you and your own heart, can bring a surprising sense of peace. Once you're past 70, thoughts about mortality tend to show up more frequently, not out of fear, but from a place of realism. You've lived long enough to know that time isn't endless. You've seen others leave this world, some quickly and unexpectedly, others slowly and painfully. And in quiet moments, you've probably asked yourself, how do I want mine to go? Here's the truth. Knowing what you want for yourself is empowering, but sharing those wishes too early, especially with your children, can sometimes do more harm than good. Perhaps you've already decided that you don't want aggressive treatments if you fall seriously ill. You may prefer a simple farewell, not a costly or elaborate funeral. Maybe you envision peace at home, surrounded by familiar comforts, rather than hooked up to machines in a hospital. But your children may not be ready to hear that. To them, these discussions don't feel like thoughtful planning or autonomy. They feel like loss, like giving up. And their reactions may not be supportive. They may resist your wishes, plead with you to change your mind, or even panic. That's exactly why some decisions are better made quietly and carefully, well before they're ever discussed with others. If you've thought about what you want for the end of your life, it's wise to write down your preferences. Put them in writing, have them legally documented if necessary, and consider entrusting those documents to a close friend, attorney, or professional you trust to keep everything safe. Then, when you feel the time is right, and only when you're certain, share your plans gently with those who are emotionally ready to handle the conversation. Take Gerald, for example. He was 81 and didn't want his children arguing or scrambling over decisions during his final days. So he quietly prepared everything in advance. His living will, Do Not Resuscitate Order, and even the specific gospel hymn he wanted played at his service, but instead of overwhelming his family with all the details, he took a calm approach. He sat them down once, spoke softly, and simply let them know everything was handled. And when the time eventually came, there was no fighting, no confusion, just peace. Gerald had already made the difficult choices, so his family didn't have to. Keeping end-of-life preferences private, at least for a while, isn't about secrecy. It's about serenity. It's not about hiding from difficult truths. It's about protecting others from emotional overload before they're ready. More importantly, it's about giving yourself the dignity to make those choices on your own terms, clearly, calmly, and without outside pressure. And here's the most powerful part: knowing that when your time comes, your voice will still be heard. Through every detail you've thoughtfully prepared, you'll have already spoken for yourself. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights helpful, please take a moment to leave a comment with the number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so now. Click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful, inspiring content just for you. Now, let's move forward to another sensitive subject: the financial buffers you keep for yourself. There's one topic that almost no one likes to discuss openly after turning 70: money. And it's not just about how much you have, it's about how much you should quietly keep to yourself. Many older adults feel pressured to disclose every detail of their finances to their family. Some even feel guilty for holding back, especially when loved ones suggest that it's time to hand over control or fully share everything just in case. But here's the truth: holding back isn't selfish, it's smart, it's protective. Because the reality is, life still throws surprises your way, even in your 70s, 80s, and 90s. Unexpected health expenses, urgent home repairs, emergencies with friends, or even something joyful, like the sudden desire to travel somewhere new, take a class you've always dreamed about, or support a cause that touches your heart deeply. And none of that is possible if every dollar you have is being monitored, questioned, or already mentally assigned to someone else. You don't need to lie or hide anything, but you absolutely have the right to set aside a private fund, no matter how small, that gives you freedom. The freedom to choose, the freedom to give, the freedom to say yes or no without asking for permission or worrying about anyone's approval. Take Carol, for example. She was 75, with 3 grown children who were all respectful, kind, and caring. But every time she mentioned her financial situation, those conversations would quickly turn into a round of unsolicited advice. Her children would start telling her, sometimes too strongly, what she should or shouldn't spend money on. One day, Carol decided to quietly open a separate account just for herself. She called it her heart fund. It wasn't for groceries or bills. She used it only for the things that made her soul feel alive, A quiet trip to a lakeside town she hadn't visited since childhood, a surprise gift for a struggling neighbor, a weekend getaway at a writing retreat to reconnect with herself. None of her spending was reckless. Every choice was thoughtful, meaningful, and most importantly, hers. And though it didn't change the size of her estate or affect her long-term savings, it made a world of difference in her happiness. It wasn't about money. It was about reclaiming a part of herself that felt vibrant, joyful, and independent. This kind of boundary is rarely discussed out loud, but it's often deeply respected once people finally understand it. And even if they don't, it doesn't matter. You don't owe anyone an explanation for keeping a small safety net tucked away for your own heart. Because sometimes, the most meaningful generosity isn't about giving everything to others. It's about keeping just enough for yourself to stay whole, steady, and quietly strong. The people who truly love you want to see you safe, but they also need to see you happy. And in many cases, your silent savings might just become the perfect bridge between those two needs. Now, let's explore something even more personal, your true emotional low points. There's a kind of silence that grows heavier with age. Not because there's nothing to say, but because some feelings feel too raw, too deeply personal, or simply too misunderstood to speak aloud. One of those deeply held secrets? Your real low points, those quiet, dark moments. The nights when you sit on the edge of your bed, staring into the darkness, quietly asking yourself, is this it? After 70, those moments don't always stem from dramatic events or sudden traumas. Sometimes they creep in gradually, like shadows settling in the corners of your life. They come from loneliness, from invisible aches and pains, from watching dear friends pass away one by one, or from looking into the mirror and barely recognizing the face staring back at you. Yet most older adults rarely speak openly about these moments, not to their children, not to their spouse, and sometimes not even to their closest friends. Why? Because society has taught us that we're supposed to be the strong ones, the wise ones, the steady, unshakable foundation that everyone else leans on for support. But here's the truth. Even the strongest people need space to fall apart sometimes. No one, at any age, is immune to those quiet moments of heartbreak. You don't have to share every breakdown or explain every tear. You don't owe anyone a detailed reason why a certain day hits harder than others, or why a particular date, maybe the anniversary of a loss, still brings a lump to your throat when no one else is watching. Keeping some of that sorrow private isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of quiet reverence. It's sacred. As you grow older, your grief becomes layered, complex, and often impossible to explain to someone in their 30s or 40s. They haven't lived through the same seasons. Trying to put it into words may only invite confusion, misplaced pity, or worse, dismissiveness. You're not being dishonest by keeping certain emotional wounds to yourself. You're simply protecting your inner world, your memories, your truth, and the delicate parts of your heart that only you can fully understand. Take Henry, for example. He's 81 now, gentle, generous, and deeply kind to everyone around him. But every August, for 1 week, Henry grows noticeably quiet. He takes a solitary trip to the coast, no matter what else is going on in his life. His family has asked about it over the years. Each time, he simply shrugs and says it's nothing. But what they don't know is that, as a teenager, Henry lost his younger brother to suicide on a quiet summer night that forever changed the way he saw the world. It wasn't something he could easily explain, and it wasn't something he wanted to burden others with. Every year, Henry honors that loss privately, in silence, by the sea. That kind of grief isn't something he feels the need to hand off to anyone else. It's not a weight he wants others to carry. Instead, it has become a part of his quiet strength, a reminder of what shaped him, and a piece of his story that belongs solely to him. So if there are days when you feel low, whether you can't quite explain why or you can, but choose not to, remember this. Choosing not to share certain feelings doesn't make you cold or broken. It makes you human. It means you've lived through enough to know that some experiences are simply meant to be carried quietly, with grace and dignity. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights meaningful, please take a moment to leave a comment with the number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our future videos. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful, inspiring content to inform and uplift you. Now, let's move on to the final secret, your backup financial plan. Here's something many older adults understand deeply, something that younger generations often don't fully grasp yet. Money, especially after 70, isn't just about numbers. It's about security, it's about freedom, and above all, it's about peace of mind. That's why your backup financial plan, whatever it may be, is something worth keeping quietly to yourself. You may have a small emergency fund tucked away, a side investment that no one else knows about, or an old insurance policy you rarely mention. And that's perfectly fine. In fact, it's wise. Because once you reach a certain age, you clearly see the difference between helping others and being taken advantage of, even unintentionally. Sometimes, adult children or loved ones ask for financial help not out of greed, but because they're simply overwhelmed by their own responsibilities. They may not realize that their request, however innocent it may seem, adds another weight to your already full plate. Other times, they assume you'll be there to cover unexpected expenses, help fund a dream, or offer a safety net, without ever asking how it affects you emotionally, mentally, or financially. That's why many older adults learn to smile, offer support when they truly can, but quietly protect what they need to survive and stay independent. And that's where your backup plan plays such an important role. Maybe it's a small savings account you've never mentioned during family dinners. Maybe it's a modest rental property you kept under the radar, bringing in a little extra income that no one else knows about. Whatever it is, it gives you comfort. It's a safety net you've built, not just for emergencies, but for your own peace of mind. Maybe your backup plan is something as significant as a rental property quietly held in your name. Or perhaps it's something much simpler, like your decision to politely refuse co-signing a loan, even though it would have been easier to say yes than to deal with the awkwardness of explaining your reasons. Whatever it is, it's yours, and it has every right to remain yours. You don't have to justify your need for security to anyone. You've spent your entire life working hard, saving diligently, managing budgets, and learning hard lessons along the way. You've weathered recessions, faced inflation, navigated family emergencies, and dealt with unexpected medical expenses. You know, perhaps better than anyone else, how quickly everything can change. When you've reached a point in life where the mailbox seems to bring more bills than birthday cards, where one unexpected hospital visit can cost more than your first car ever did, you begin to understand something crystal clear. Having a quiet backup plan isn't selfish. It's survival, it's wisdom, it's peace of mind. Think about Barbara, a 76-year-old widow who lives simply in a modest apartment. Her children believe she's just getting by, living on a tight budget. But what they don't know is that Barbara made some very wise choices years ago. She quietly sold her larger home, invested the proceeds into low-risk bonds, and set up a personal trust for herself. Barbara doesn't brag about it. She doesn't bring it up at family dinners or use it to prove anything to anyone. She simply keeps it to herself. But every night, she sleeps soundly, knowing she has protected her future. That's what truly matters, the peace of knowing you're not dependent on anyone else. That if something unexpected comes up, whether it's a roof that needs urgent repairs, an unexpected medical procedure, or even just the wish to relocate closer to an old friend, you can act on it without asking for permission or waiting for others to approve. So yes, keep your backup plan. Don't announce it. Don't explain it. Just protect it, quietly and confidently. It may not be something you talk about openly, but it's one of the wisest, most empowering secrets you'll ever hold. Life becomes quieter with age. And in that quiet, your choices begin to matter more than ever before. what you choose to share, what you choose to hold back, and what you protect. These aren't just personal preferences, they're survival skills, sharpened through years of experience. Keeping a few things to yourself doesn't mean you don't trust your family. It simply means you trust your own wisdom. You've lived long enough to understand that clear boundaries don't damage relationships, they protect them. You've learned that peace, dignity, and independence are treasures worth preserving at all costs. Each of these 7 secrets isn't about hiding. They're about honoring the life you've built and protecting your right to live it fully on your own terms. They're about staying strong and grounded in your story, even as others around you are busy writing their own. And most importantly, they're about giving yourself full permission to live these later years with clarity, courage, and quiet strength, without guilt, without pressure, and without apology. So, what about you? Which of these 7 quiet truths have you already been keeping to yourself? And which one felt like something you've been waiting to hear someone finally say out loud? Thank you for spending this time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one meaningful takeaway from this video and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your stories and reflections mean a lot to us, and we truly value every comment. Reading what you share gives us great motivation and encourages us to keep creating thoughtful, helpful content designed to inform and inspire you. If you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with others who may benefit. Your support makes it possible for us to continue bringing you content that matters. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we wish you good health, lasting happiness, and a peaceful, joyful heart. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.